This video is going to show you how to contextualize a secondary data review, or SDR matrix. It's an Excel spreadsheet that's intended to help you capture and enter, compile, and then analyze all of your secondary data. Before contextualizing, a quick introduction to the template itself. In the bottom left corner is a worksheet called Sources. Here's a table in which you can put all of the different sources and documents that you'll be pulling your secondary data from, who that source is assigned to, and its status. If we go back to the main table here, this is where you'll be entering your secondary data. It's a table with several columns, and so you can see that the first column is about it pertains to the date of entry. That's important because you might want to filter or search your database by when a piece of information was put in. You also have the date of the information itself, or the date of the event. There's next two columns on the geographic levels. Admin 1 and 2 stands for administrative level 1 and 2. This might, for example, be region and province. Next, this column, data information, is where you'll actually put the data, the secondary data that you're pulling from your documents and your sources. So that's where the actual content will be. All of the other columns are more just tags. It's how you'll be able to analyze your data. So here we have type of information or data, and if we click on this, you'll see a drop-down box. So is it a problem, need, gap, or does it pertain to response, or is it just general information? Domain, this pertains to the INE minimum standard domains. So you have access and learning environment, teaching and learning, teachers and other education personnel, education policy, and other. Thematic issue. Here's a list of different themes or tags that you might be able to use for the secondary data that you extracted. Timeline. Is it pre-crisis, in crisis, similar crisis, post-crisis? There's a column here on severity. Next is a column for providing the name of the document so you can find it again. The source of the information, or the publisher of the document. The reliability of the source. And last but not least, a link to the document or the location where to find it again. Now, the nice thing with this table, this template, is that if you don't feel like you need all of these tags, you can simply delete or hide that column. So if, for example, we said, we're not really using this column, we don't really need it, you can right-click and simply just hide it. So that's not a problem. If, likewise, you feel like there needs to be more information, then you can add columns. The type of information that you may want to tag your data with all depends on the analysis. And so most likely you're going to definitely want to keep the administrative levels so that you can do a geographic analysis. The INE minimum standard domains, for example, are very useful because it provides a framework for an analysis, and we'll look at this later with the report template. As well as these thematic issue tags, also incredibly important because you'll be able to drill down in your data and begin analyzing by these tags. Now we'll do another video on analysis where we get into that specifically. So that's an introduction to the template itself. Now how do we begin contextualizing? We showed you a lot of drop-downs, for example. How do we change these lists or update them or contextualize them for our country? In the bottom right corner, there's a final worksheet here called Lists. And if you click on that, this series of tables are what determine the content for the drop-down menus on the other worksheet, on the main sheet where you enter your data. So when contextualizing this SDR template, one of the first things you'll do then is go into the lists and update all of these tables for your context. Now let's take a look at how to contextualize this template. First, we'll start with the geographic areas. It's not overly complicated. It's just a matter of copying and pasting, but the first thing that you're going to need to do is locate your administrative labels and names, and typically this can be found from OCHA or online. You'll have to locate that in your country. But here I have an example from Nigeria, and so for the affected Admin 1 areas are listed here, and it's just a matter of selecting, copying, and then pasting. I paste values to keep my formatting clean, but you'll notice I pasted underneath this entire affected area category. The reason is because some of the secondary data you collect might actually apply to the entire affected area. So it's a nice quick option to have for your tagging. Now the and that's it. That admin 1 is now contextualized. That drop down should now be working. We can even take a quick look. Come over here, admin 1, and voila, it's all contextualized. Congratulations. Now if we come back to our lists, admin 2, it's the exact same thing. We're going to go back to our list of administrative boundaries, copy, paste. Real quick, a note here. You'll notice that admin 1 is repeated many times because it needs to be linked to the different admin 2s. This is just, you don't need to worry about it too much, but basically it's because we're using cascading drop-downs, which I'll show you in a moment. So again, we copy this. I'm going to select it, Control-C for copy, and then underneath entire affected area, I'm going to paste it. You'll notice though I'm going to be pasting over the entire region, so we'll have to put those back in manually. So paste values. And now I want to keep that option so that I can paste in or tag for the entire state. Now it's instead of the entire affected area, really what I want the option for the entire affected admin 1, but in this case in Nigeria it's called a state, so entire affected state. So if I'm tagging and I have some information about Adamawa and it applies to the entire state of Adamawa, I can just, under the admin 2 column, click entire affected state and move on. Now you'll need to do that for all of the state options, the admin 1 options here. So I'm going to, again, click insert row. I'm going to copy and paste or write out the name of Baki. Don't know how to pronounce that. And again, entire affected state, copy, paste, write it in, and do that over and over. Now let's check and make sure that this has in fact been contextualized. So if you try to click immediately on admin 2, that's not going to work. You need to first select from admin 1. In this case, I'll click Adamawa, and then we see entire affected state, which I put, and just the state, the admin 2, or in this case LGA options for Adamawa. That's the cascading effect that I talked about. It's not all hundreds and hundreds of options there, just the ones for Adamawa. And while we're contextualizing for good measure, we see admin 1 here. I can write state, and in Nigeria, admin 2 is called local government authority, or LGA. Okay, now let's go back to our lists and look at the additional drop-downs that we have. So we have type of data information. Typically I don't mess with this too much. I think it's fine to as it is, but again, if you wish to change it, you simply add INE minimum standard domains as well, fairly common, fairly standard, so I don't typically need to update that. But again, if you feel, for example, that you would like another category or domain to organize your data by, feel free. Now this one is the one that you're going to definitely want to spend some time in your cluster teams, in your working groups, discussing and making sure that you get right. It's the thematic issue. The template comes with some predetermined or preset options. You don't need to use them all. You can take some out. These are based on multiple rounds of secondary data reviews we've done in multiple countries. So it gives you some options, but it's incredibly important that you and your teams contextualize this and determine what you want to be tagging the data by, because this will then determine your analysis. So it's, again, very, very simple. All you need to do, you can click this and expand. What I recommend doing rather than that is simply writing the name of the new tag at the bottom, and you'll see that the table expanded automatically. That's important. It has to be inside of that table in order for the dynamic dropdown to capture that. But let's just go make sure that we did that. So thematic issue, back over here, let's scroll down to thematic issue, and if we were to click here, go down to the bottom, there's our new tag. Typically I'd prefer other at the bottom, so on that table I might move new tag up in the order. And that's it. There's, again, more lists that can be contextualized, more drop downs, but I leave that to you to play with. Have fun.